Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show. We have a great guest today, Erin Helle from West Point, New York, right where the Army, West Point Air Force, sorry. I just spoke to someone in the Air Force. West Point is the Army Academy. So sorry to get my tongue all twisted up there. But in any case, Erin, thank you so much for joining us. I'm just glad that you're doing this. We have a lot in common, and I can't wait to let everybody get to meet you. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got it. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit of background, because most of us, we're not born saying, hey, I'm going to be a real estate agent. We're born saying, I'm going to be an astronaut or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. But what was your path that took you into real estate? And I understand you're also in the Army, of course, so maybe start there, because probably the seed was planted in there some way. I'm gathering. If you don't mind sharing, that would be awesome,
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'll start when I went to college at West Point at 18. I didn't know a single thing about the Army, hadn't met anybody else in the Army. But I think what was really appealing to me was this idea of financial freedom and being free from having to ask anybody for money, right? I was a swimmer. I wanted a full ride. Did get some other offers, but I still had to pay for room and board and books and food. And that really added up, especially when I wasn't able to get a job because I'd be swimming so much. So West Point afforded me this opportunity to come to school for free and get paid a monthly stipend. It wasn't much, but starting at 18 years old, I've never, ever asked anybody for money ever again. And that to me was what I wanted and what really ultimately appealed to me. So the way that West Point works, you get a full ride to college, 4 years. They pay for everything. They pay for your food. Of course, they pay for the barracks. They pay for your uniforms. Then you graduate and you owe 5 years of service to the Army in order to pay it back, which was also decent pay and a really good start to my professional life. I met so many amazing people on that journey, and I did really well as an Army officer. I loved it, and I thought I would make it. I hoped that, in the beginning that I'd make a career out of it. I married another Army officer that I met at West Point, and he's still active duty. We, around the 8-year mark, we got pregnant with our first daughter, and my priorities shifted overnight after I had her. And I kind of knew that she was the most important thing. I didn't really realize how quickly and easily things would change. But 3 days after maternity leave, I got put on deployment orders for 3 months later. So the baby would have been 6 months old. And my husband was also scheduled to leave that same month. So we would have had to leave her with some of our parents, a set. We would have had to choose one of her 3 sets of grandparents who would put her in daycare with a 3-month lead time, which was impossible. Daycare wait lists are so long, especially for infants. And I just couldn't do it. So I knew the moment that email hit my inbox, I just laughed. I was like, I'm not deploying. I can hardly leave her at daycare for half a day. I wanted to go see her every day at lunch. And I knew in that moment I was no longer a soldier. And up until that point, I had volunteered for everything. I went to every school I could. I volunteered for my second deployment. And I just knew I wasn't the same person. So went home, talked to my husband. I resigned the next day. It was a really easy process, which was eye-opening because I was 30. Everything that I knew professionally, like my whole identity was the military, was the Army, my entire network. And then suddenly I got out with not so much as a thank you for your service. Nobody seemed to really care when I got out. And I kind of knew at that point that the only person that was going to be looking out for me was me. And it was kind of depressing, but also like really empowering too. And so I looked into full-time employment, but with my husband still being in, we would move a lot. It's a full-time job to find a full-time job. And so I pursued my own business and I thought all there was to real estate investing was flipping houses. So my first house I flipped when I was pregnant with my second child and ended up doing a ton of the work myself because one of the things I really didn't realize was that contractors wouldn't necessarily like start the next day. Like I didn't realize you had to like get these things laid out in advance. And so sometimes we couldn't afford the contractor. We had to do it ourselves. Other times they were like, sure, we can start in 8 weeks. And I was like, well, I have a baby coming and need to be done by then. So my dad and I ended up doing a ton of it ourselves. And I just kind of fell in love with it. Like I love the job site. I grew up around construction, but I also realized it wasn't really conducive to my lifestyle with a toddler and a baby, husband deploying all the time, and also moving every 18 months to 2 years. So I started realizing there's other ways to build a portfolio, became a realtor around the same time to build another stream of income. And since then have just been like snatching up streams of income left and right. And I honestly don't even recognize myself. My firstborn is 8 now, and I'm totally financially free, have full control of my schedule. I'm in 2 weeks, or no, in 1 week, I'm going to Europe for a month. And it's great because I'm still going to get paid while I'm gone. And I don't intend to work the whole time. So
Yeah, that is awesome. What a great start. It's in now, so you're still around West Point, and I'm gathering your father you must be close by.
yeah, he's in the
Yeah.
Buffalo area. That's where I grew up.
Okay, cool. That's well, it's sort of in the same state at least, anyways. But it's nice
Yep.
of him to come down and help you with it. My father-in-law helped me with a lot of the early jobs I did. I mean, I was a buy and hold guy, and I didn't flip for years. But when I was doing the rentals, he came down a lot. It was like an hour away and helped me. It really was a big help. But so back to you. Let's get back to this now. So you've got your own portfolio and you're financially independent. But I understand you also now have you're a real estate agent with EXP. And do you have a team you're running, and how are you working with investors locally, investors, that anybody that comes to West Point, they could be, if somebody wants to come from Chicago, for example, can you work with them if they want to invest in your area? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I recruit like an informal team at EXP. So we have what we call a community, and
Mhm.
so they don't split anything with me, but they join with me as their sponsor, and they get
Mhm.
access to me as their coach, and then my upline, which is also exceptional. And we all kind of have our own things that we can help with, which is awesome. We're all
Mhm.
very well rounded, when you put us all together. But
Mhm.
what I try to do for my team is refer as much as I can. I don't help a lot of buyers and sellers. I'm typically referring them out to my team members in other states, other cities. My main team is in Tennessee because that's where I started and that's where my portfolio is. So a lot of my agents are in the Clarksville, Nashville area. But yeah, what I really try to do is help them. I help my realtors build their businesses. I've learned I'm kind of more passionate about business building and this concept of building a business
Mhm.
that fuels your financial freedom than I am about real estate transactions. But that said, real estate transactions are the tool. So I help my team with that. I help them build systems and processes so they can scale, and then also show them how to build multiple streams of income so that their lives just get better every year.
Yeah. Well, you're mentioning one of the best areas right now in the country. Nashville has been for quite some time. But Clarksville too. Now everybody knows Clarksville used to be small. Of course, you're right over the state line from Fort Campbell, right, in Kentucky. Great
Yep,
town.
right
I
at
have I
Kentucky.
have an
Yep.
agent. Yeah, and I have an agent on my team there in Clarksville. He's also, retired Army, and he was an intelligence Army intelligence, and he's just killing it right now. His own investments, helping other investors. The guy's an absolute role model. And then we got a few agents in Nashville too. But I really love what you're doing here, and I understand you have a website. Hang on one second. bcglobalinvestments.com, right? So
Yep.
so
Yep.
on there, can consumers go on there to learn more about you? I mean, training. Tell us about the website and what's on there for consumers.
Yeah. Yep. So you can learn about me. You can learn about my background, a little bit about my portfolio and multiple streams of income. If you go to
Mhm.
the education tab, my favorite thing there is my course bundle. So it comes with my workbook, an ebook, and then it comes with my 2 courses. I have a foundational investor course as well as a flips course that's kind of an offshoot of that. But what I love about the foundational course is it really helps you to set yourself up to invest and to get yourself out of debt and figure out how to make all your activities align with your end goals. I think all of us would love to be financially free, but people don't have a clue as to how to do that. So I really kind of break it down for you to figure out what your goals are, what your why is, what you want your life to look like. And then you figure out what levers you can pull, what activities you can take to actually affect change in that bottom line. So, we always hear about this, especially women, like women want to have it all or women can't have it all. I think you can have it all, but you have to define what it all is. And no one's all is the same, right? I don't have I have no desire for a nice car or a big house. I just want to travel and eat organic foods and go out to restaurants. I don't care so much about clothes or things like that. And so it's easy for me to cancel my Prime membership and a lot of the entertainment systems that people are paying for, like Hulu, Netflix, all that stuff. People could be paying $200 a month. I just do one at a time. So I save a bunch of money there. But once you kind of get really clear on your goals and your why, it's so much easier to be disciplined and work toward what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But so many people don't take the time or put in the effort to figure out what they're trying to accomplish. And instead of going from point A to point B in the quickest, most direct path, they end up just all over the map and they don't end up anywhere in particular.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to realestateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. So the foundational path or foundational program, that's more aligned then with not just helping people understand finances and getting their finances in order, but also having the vision and then probably writing down what their goals are relative to their vision, which is absolutely critical, So in your portfolio, you've done some flipping, but is a portfolio, was there traditional rentals? Do you have like short-term rentals, midterm? Do you do anything that's outside residential, like storage, things like that? Or if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your portfolio,
Yeah, that's a great question because it has shifted over the years and we used to do short-term rentals. We don't anymore because I've found that they take a lot more time than they're worth to me personally. And honestly, it's like emotional. It's an emotional toll. Like when you're dealing with guest complaints or you're dealing with an unreasonable HOA, it just isn't worth it to me. And so we have sold those assets. We almost exclusively deal with long-term residential units. So our portfolio has 97 doors. 42 of those we own, we being me and my husband, own in our own names, like in our trust. And then the other 50 some are in syndications. So we own a portion of those. And we're actually shifting more toward the syndication model because what I like about that is just how passive it is. It allows you to be more diverse because you can put 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 into a portfolio of properties or a larger apartment complex that's completely managed by the syndicator. And typically, you make a one-time investment up front and you're not really asked for more money. Whereas in a single-family home, for example, we own one in Clarksville. I just finished renovating it and just had to replace I finished renovating it earlier. No, I guess at the end of last year. We didn't do the roof because it didn't need it. Crazy storm came through and I just had to replace the roof. So I had to come up with that $7,400 out of pocket. I could have used my insurance, but as a rule, we really don't because we have so many policies. If we were to use those policies every single time we needed to make a repair, then nobody would cover us. We'd have too many repairs. So,
Yeah.
you know, our model is shifting to be more passive so that we can do other things. Like we've recently started a foundation, which is we like to help kids. We like to be like we send kids to camp. We pay for school lunches. We pay for backpacks and sporting equipment and stuff like that. And that's just really cool. So we want more capacity for that and just again, more freedom.
Yeah. Hey, if you don't mind sharing, what's is the foundation is it available to the public to contribute, or is it just a private, like inside of a trust type foundation, like a
I think I want to make it available to the public. The only way you can find it right now is on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's called For the Kids. It's For the Kids
for the kids?
Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah. And follow it on Facebook so I can figure out how to make that. I want to make it a place where people can donate. Because there's no
Yeah.
overhead. 100% of what we donate goes to kids. And
Yeah.
it's just so cool to like walk into this at the end of every year, which I'm actually going to do this week. I walk into the school office and I say, who has delinquent lunch accounts? And I just pay them. And I say, don't tell anybody
Yeah.
who paid it. And I mean, can you imagine what that's like for like a single mom out there or a dad whose
Yeah.
wife died or is sick or something like that? Well, that could change their life. And it's just so easy for us to do.
Yeah.
That we want to do more of it.
Yeah. Well, that is absolutely amazing. I mean, of all the things we can talk about today, Erin, and you've had some incredible accomplishments, going to West Point, marrying another guy from West Point. That's pretty cool. Having two children, building a portfolio of 97 units,
Yep.
but being able to anonymously, serve others from your heart without asking anything in return, that to me is the highest form of self-actualization you can ever imagine. I've been blessed to know some really amazing people like you who are just like that. They're like, you'd be the super affluent people generally are not looking for attention. They're looking to make a difference. And that's different than people. And I'm not knocking Hollywood, but let's just face it, people in Hollywood like attention. They'll do things, they'll come to the aid
Yeah.
of a crisis, but they want to be on camera. And you, like these other folks, you're the real heroes. These people may never meet you, but they're going to always remember that. And so will the people at the school.
Yeah. I appreciate
You know,
that. And you know what's
yeah.
really cool about that too is I think when you start to hit a point of financial stability and then some, you
Mhm.
realize so many of your problems go away. And, my
Yeah.
husband will get frustrated about something like recently a construction worker smashed into our car. And I was like, you know
Mm.
what? This is not a big deal. We'll fix it with money. Like a problem is not a problem if you can just pay for it.
Yeah.
And I've helped my dad recently got divorced and was in a really tough spot financially. And like our
Mm.
society behind. Once you get behind, it's almost impossible to catch up because of the interest rates and the penalties and all the things that come with like if you can't get a credit card and you end up having to, finance a car repair or something like it's just really difficult. And so something that I've learned is it breaks my heart to think that like kids are going to school hungry or kids can't do sports
Yeah.
because their parents can't afford it. And unfortunately, like there's not a lot of support, especially if the parents don't have time to go out and pursue it. So that's what we want to be is like I tell my friends all the time, like if you hear of a need, like we recently sent a little girl, she's 16, to a gymnastics tournament. Like she wasn't able, her mom couldn't afford it. And it was like $2,000 to go to this tournament for the weekend. They qualified for like nationals. She was the only
Wow.
girl on the team that couldn't go. And so she had to
Mhm.
raise the money and we didn't cover the whole thing, but we covered her remaining balance. And just to be able to, can you imagine like being the one girl on the team and having the financial pressure in addition
Yeah.
to like having to perform? So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing gift. I mean, I have a term I coined called Earth Angels, and you're one of them. And there's people walking around out there, and I've had it happen to me. I mean, we've all had times in life when you have the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. It's just part of being an entrepreneur. Um, but I've had that happen to me. When years ago, I was, at one of my son's track meet, and one of my friends was a minister at a different church. He ran marathons, and my wife was a marathoner too. We knew each other. I said, John, I got to talk to you, man. I've got this crisis. I can't even think straight. I mean, I never had this happen. My life was perfect, you know? And then all of a sudden, three in a row. And he said, Gary, God's going to send somebody across your path and say the right thing at the right time. And man, it not only happened once, it happened multiple times. It's just amazing, you know? If you
yeah,
just have a little bit of faith and just be
yeah,
willing to put yourself out there, man, that's when you see the miracles occur in life, you know? So what's really
yeah,
cool
it
about
is
all this
amazing.
is it is. What's really cool about this is you're able to use your investing as a foundation upon which you're doing other things, like the the Facebook page. Hang on one second. For the Kids Foundation. For the Kids Foundation.
Yep.
By the way, if you do want some help on that, doing a 501(c) thing, I mean, I've done it. There's plenty of people that can help you, but there's places you can go to that doesn't actually cost anything because you're doing a good turn for the community. So there are rules though. It is sometimes it's better to have a like a family foundation that's private than it is to have a public one. It's just easier, but at the same time, you have a public one, it's easier to solicit funds and things like that. It's just they really lean
Right.
on you when it comes to
Yeah,
accounting.
I'm definitely gonna
So
take you up on that and connect with you about how to kind
okay.
of grow that because that's in our 5-year plan. We want to really make that something.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot we can do together. I mean, we're so much alike. I mean, we're both the EXP. I didn't even know that till literally 5 minutes before the show. Like, holy cow, look at this, man. You invest, you work with investors. I mean, that's my background. That's how I got started. I was always the oddball. When everybody would go left, I would go right. I had brokers telling me, "You're nuts working with investors." I'm like, "Well, I am an investor and I understand investing." And all it comes down to, honestly, Erin, and I'm sure you see this, is education, information, and communication. If you bridge those three gaps, you can be friends and service partners with anybody for the rest of your life. But if you don't learn, if agents are not taught this by their brokers, and I'm going to be kind of blatant about this for all the brokers out there listening, you need to connect with people like Erin and me if you want to. We teach this stuff, and agents need to know it because if they don't, they're never going to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk, and it's going to end in frustration, which is exactly what was happening, which is exactly, Aaron, why I got my license years ago. I was just done. I was like, I'm going to just get my license and solve it myself, you know. And boy, I realized this industry at the time was very chaotic and unorganized, unstructured. And I came from military background and then banking. Like you couldn't get more structured and organized than me. And that's all I do is apply my systems knowledge in industry, and that's why I was able to do so well because nobody else was doing it. It's just
Yeah.
waking up day by day, willy nilly. So let's get back, and we're going to run out of time here very quickly. I'm going to talk to you further, outside the show, but so back to this. So here we are. We're I'm going to date time stamp the podcast here. We're mid 2024, election year. We've had a few years of rapid price increases by a few years of rate increases on loans. And people have uncertainty. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to wait. And it drives me crazy when I hear people say, I'm just going to wait. So what can you tell people right now? What just by your opinion, maybe something your dad taught you or something you learned in the military to help people get unstuck, because that's what I'm seeing right now. A lot of people are just stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I actually did a dissertation on investor psychology. I got my doctorate of business administration and studied really the difference between men and women investors. It didn't start out this way, but I learned on my first survey that well, I learned in my research that women are better investors than men. And I learned in my very first survey that I put out there that women don't know that, and they're not very confident in their investing. And so I was like, man, there's really something here. So I dove into that. And what I learned about women is they are really good at planning and sticking to the plan. And they reach out to their peers, other women, their parents, their sisters, and they bounce their plans off each other, and they just take feedback and they improve their plan. But ultimately, I think the reason that women do better is because they stick to the plan. Now, why this matters, if you look at like the '08 housing crisis, more women came out of that millionaires than men, because typically men they like in that situation, a lot of them just jumped ship. They just sold off their properties for a loss, lost everything. The people that held on through that cycle came out even better on the other side. So for those of you that are investing and you're struggling right now because there's more vacancies or rents are lower than they should be, or the cost of repairs is out of control, I would just encourage you to do what you can to hold on and ride this wave, because it will pay off on the other side. It always does. And for investors or potential investors, realize that real investors, professional full-time investors, are buying throughout every single market cycle. So make offers that work for you. Make offers that allow you to accomplish your goals, and get creative. Ask for seller financing, ask for subject to deals, look for things that work for you, and get creative, and just have this mentality that you're going to do what it takes to get it done, and you will.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Two things actually. The first thing is that women making great investors, and I can vouch for that. I've over the years, I think I did over 5,000 transactions with other people. And the other thing about women I recognize is they're far more in tune with in touch and in tune with the market and what the market wants. So when it came to remodeling, spot on remodeling. And really just overall, I mean, and on my team, my best agents out of like the top 10, so let's say top five, four of them are female. So really and then they're just crushing it. But the thing about the market that I learned is, we have like 30 different strategies that we use for acquiring properties. And there's a strategy for every market. I don't care if the market's up or the market's down. I shouldn't say. I do care. I do care about the economy. But really, I just want to know what it is that it's doing. What is the trend? What are the facts? What's the data? Because then that helps me determine what strategy will work. But there's always a strategy in every part of the market cycle. So the old people say, I'm going to wait and buy. I'm like, no, 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 no. Buy and wait. They're believing that you got to have some trust and faith and belief, because let's face it, just look at the people that did sell. I had to sell some properties in 2011 due to a divorce. But I remember telling the lawyers and the judges, I said, you guys are nuts for requiring us. I said, if I said, I would rather, I'd actually told them, I said, I'd rather go to jail. And they said, well, we can arrange that, you know? And I said, okay, I guess I'll sell them. And I said, you don't understand what you're doing. We haven't come out of this recession yet. The recession was still kind of going, but we were at the bottom. We were at the bottom. It had bottomed out 2008, 9, 10, 11. We're still at the bottom. And I said, all that work I've been doing is going to be for naught. And then sure enough, to this day, everybody looks back and says, yep, that was a big bona fide disaster of a decision, but it was what the judge came up with. And I was at that point, I'm like, okay, whatever we got to do, let's just get it done, because my freedom is more important than money. I can make more money. And boy, I sure showed them.
Yeah. And that's what you
So
learn, when it
yeah.
gets tough, when you're in a tough spot, that's what you learn. Like, you might lose stuff, you might lose money, you might lose time, you might be real stressed, but you just learn that you're going to overcome it. And then you're just better when it happens again. So I think that's like the best lesson you can learn, is like, it sucks to lose it all and it sucks to take a step back, but the market will continue to cycle. There's always going to be another deal out there, and you just keep your head up and keep going.
Yeah, I agree. There's, the key is man, just never, ever give up. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but I'm living proof it's true. Do not give up. If you wake up in the morning and your heart's beating and your lungs are breathing and your mind is at least somewhat functioning, I guarantee you can end the day better off than you started. You just have to be persistent, resilient, disciplined. You have to be a learner. You've got to be informed, and you've got to take action, and you do got to take faith. So, I mean, have faith, excuse me. But I want to go over some of this real quick. So, everybody listening, if you're not driving, write this down. If you are driving, just remember when you get home, come back to the show notes. bcglobalinvestments.com is the place you want to go. Click on the education tab, okay, and then look at Erin's training. There's two programs out there, okay. And while you're online, go to Facebook and go to For the Kids Foundation. See what you can do to participate and help out, okay. And I don't think there was anything else. I think that was it. Erin,
Yep.
thank you so much for this. Has been one of my all-time favorite podcasts, and I really can't thank enough. I look forward to. I know we're going to meet each other again and talk, and just tell you. But thank you for doing this, and for everybody listening, thank you for listening. And if you could please leave a review, Erin and I both appreciate that. Your review is that's our currency, if you will, of the podcast world. We don't get paid for this. Indirectly, we build relationships, which is wonderful. So your review is really what makes this podcast world go around. And thank you for doing that. In the meantime, I will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Take care of yourselves. God bless you and your family, and have an awesome day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.